Hey guys, welcome back, I'm Jay. In this episode, we're going to look at the Identity and Access Management Service, AWS IAM. AWS Identity and Access Management or IAM allows you to control who can access which AWS services and resources securely. Who can access the resources is authentication. Which resources they can access is authorization. IAM allows you to manage authentication and authorization on AWS. With IAM you can create and manage AWS users and groups, and use permissions to allow or deny their access to AWS resources. The permissions are usually called IAM policies. The IAM users, groups, or roles you have created are AWS global entities. They exist in all regions after being created. There is no additional cost to use IAM. You only pay for other AWS services used with IAM. There are a few IAM terminologies you need to know. IAM user is the user that is created for whom you want to grant the access to AWS. They can be individual developers, testers or managers, who can log into AWS console with username and password, or access AWS SDK, CLI and API with access key and secret key. Users cannot be shared. You should never share your IAM credentials, such as username and password, with another person. Please remember, root user is not an IAM user, it's created when you create an AWS account. There is one root user per AWS account. As a security best practice, never use root user for any development or operational tasks. IAM group is a collection of IAM users with the same set of permissions. For instance, you have a development group with access to your AWS development resources, or the testing group with access to testing databases. Each group can have multiple users, and one user can join multiple groups. For instance, a user can be in both development and testing groups. IAM role is the IAM identity that you can create with specific permissions, and assign it to AWS resources, so that other AWS services or users can assume the role to access those resources. Roles are similar to users, except they don't come with long-term credentials. Instead, they give you temporary credentials for your role sessions. For instance, you can create IAM roles to grant permissions to applications running on Amazon EC2. IAM policy is a permission document which allows or denies access to specific AWS resources. You can attach IAM policies with users, groups or roles. Most IAM policies are stored as JSON documents. There is a list of AWS predefined IAM policies. You can also create your own policies. As a security best practice, AWS recommends you to create a group, add users to the group, and attach IAM policies to the group, instead of giving permissions to users directly. You should always follow the least privilege principle, and only assign the least permissions required for certain tasks. IAM is a centralized service that enables you to securely manage your IAM users, groups and roles on AWS. IAM gives you fine-grained control over shared access using IAM policies. For instance, when you hire a new developer to work on databases, you can add the user to the group with permissions to those databases only. After the project finished, you can remove the user from the group. IAM allows users to access the AWS console with usernames and passwords, and access AWS resources via SDK, CLI and API with access keys and secret keys. IAM enables you to enforce strong security policies for access control. For instance, you can require IAM users to implement strong password policy, password rotation, and multi-factor authentication or MFA. IAM also provides the identity federation that lets users access AWS with third-party credentials, such as Google, Facebook, or Active Directory. IAM enables you to grant temporary access with security tokens to your users or apps. For instance, with the security token, users of your mobile apps can temporarily access files stored in S3, without AWS username and password. In this episode, we've learned basic concepts of AWS IAM. IAM user is the user that is created for whom you want to grant the access to AWS. IAM group is a collection of IAM users with the same set of permissions. IAM role is the IAM identity that you can create with specific permissions, and assign it to AWS resources. IAM policy is a permission document which allows or denies access to specific AWS resources. You can attach IAM policies with users, groups or roles. You should never share your IAM credentials with another person. These credentials include your username, password, access key ID, and secret access key. You should always use IAM users for development and operational tasks, instead of the root user. IAM enables you to enforce strong security policies for access control, such as strong password policy, password rotation, and MFA. As a security best practice, AWS recommends you to create a group, add users to the group, and attach IAM policies to the group, instead of giving permissions to users directly. You should always follow the least privilege principle, and only assign the least permissions required for certain tasks. Okay, that's all for AWS IAM. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.
Hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. If you liked the video, please help us and hit the like button. If you want to watch more tutorials, please subscribe to the Cloudemy TV channel. Make sure to turn on the notification and stay tuned. At Cloudemy, we're passionate about cloud and AI technology. Please share your feedback and thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to watch. Happy watching and happy learning.